Well, this week it's time to head home for the holidays, and the schedule makers here at the Full Send Sim Series have elected to do the same, back to a home track here in Florida. Welcome back to Sebring International for the second time in Season 2 of 2025. Of course, this time we're on the full course, the proper course, in my opinion, here, the 3.74-mile layout that's been here ever since the mid-1950s, one of the classic American road courses. Kyle Heyer joined by Connor Horn, round 13 of 15 of the championship, just 2 weeks to go. We head to Chicago next week for some street racing, and then a Mount Panorama for the season finale. Connor, welcome aboard. Light field tonight, only 14 entrants, but I have a feeling that while it is sort of a homecoming here tonight on the schedule, a lot more are actually headed home, and that's probably why we're a little lighter on cars this evening.
Probably why we're a little light, but I still think the racing is going to be at an all-time high. This track, especially with these SMX cars, it's going to be incredibly fun. You're probably going to see all 14 cars packed up on each other in both races that we have tonight. Qualifying is obviously going to always look interesting in these cars. A very fun racetrack. Not a track that I'm accustomed to very often, but I know all these drivers are, so they should know how to race each other. They should know how to race each other at a track like this and where the passing zones are. But you know these drivers are going to push it to the limit in every single corner, try to get everything possible, so it should be a fun one.
I think this ramps up the aggression quite a bit. When you have a smaller field size, there's less of a penalty for having a poor night, so I think this makes drivers get up on the wheel just that much more. And we should also take note that the championship standings have not been updated for this week. However, we kind of know the established championship front runners. It's Camden Hibbett, Beans Forster, and Morgan Burkhardt. Morgan has been clawing his way forward and has vowed to make the tail half of the season a nightmare for Camden Hibbett. And qualifying has been a little bit of, or at least practice. We didn't see a lot of lap times put in by Camden Hibbett, but qualifying has just started, and we're all in this pack like you talked about. So now we're going to reshuffle the deck and get set for two 20-minute races tonight.
That's exactly what it looks like. You're just reshuffling the deck. And deck's staying in order, but kind of spread out here and there. I mean, that draft always so important almost at any track, even at Barber, where we were about a few weeks ago. It still matters, so you're going to have everyone in these lines. You're just hoping the driver in front of you doesn't make a mistake, hoping the heart rate doesn't get any higher than 130 at some point for Camden Hibbett, but I'm sure we'll see it tick up a little bit. But I hate pack qualifying. I always hated how NASCAR did it. I never understood why they did it on the ovals. The road courses make sense, but that's a different story for a different time. You're just so worried when you're in these lines. If a driver makes a mistake, there's nowhere for you to go unless they get out of your way, so it's really stressful.
Yeah, I think, to your point about the qualifying here, in the Toyota GR Cup Series, we had done, or switched from pack qualifying to single car qualifying to sort of cut down on the funny business that happens at qualifying. But of course, this series replicates the real world SMX series in which qualifying is done as a group. And so with it comes all of the complexities and strategy decisions to make within that. So Camden Hibbett leads the field here. But, I've seen in single make racing, qualifying at Sebring in particular, not necessarily be a drafting game. I've seen drivers go out there on their own and run really good lap times. Why? Because they didn't have to worry about who else wasn't on their strategy and having to pass cars or having to lift early because they got to someone's rear bumper. I don't mind being out front so long as everyone is a little bit disorganized.
Yeah, it's just, if you're going to be in a line, you kind of need to have that room in front of you, and if you're right packed up behind someone, it's not the way to do it. You still have to worry about a little bit of dirty air in these cars. Not a lot, obviously, but you're still going to have a decent amount of it. We got the heart rate, I believe, for Beans Forster tonight as well.
Yeah.
If that's what that is. So that's something I don't think I saw at Barber 2 weeks ago, but like I said, I don't like group qualifying. I want to be on the track on my own. I don't want to have to worry about someone else making a mistake in front of me. Throwing dirt onto a track, that's a big issue here as well. You could get a little bit sideways, miss the corner here or there. A lot of easy places to get 1X off tracks to validate that lap. I like having clean air, but obviously majority of the field in this line, as you can see pretty much the entire field in that camera shot right there.
Yeah, Beans Forster got the heart rate monitor, like you said. He's at 120 BPM right now, peak of 130 so far tonight. Hibbett is about 109. I always love getting a little bit of an insight as to the vascular performance of these drivers as they make their way around. So all the while, James Newell went to the top of the pylon, and that's a 228.832, about 22 thousandths quicker than Forster. Hibbett and Burkhardt down the ways a little bit. Now, Morgan didn't get a lap time on his first time around. That was because of either contact or an off track, but he's all by himself. This is what I was talking about, something I saw in the Toyota GR Cup Series in the real world last year in 2024. Gresham Wagner all by himself out-qualified everybody by a second. And I think that Morgan might be trying something similar here.
Yeah, in his first lap that didn't count, he was in the line. He was kind of, I believe, third in line. So I think he decided to just get out of it and try something different, just to at least get a time on the board and not have to worry about wasting laps here and there, just being stuck behind someone and getting off track. So going to try to put a time down on his own, although some drivers come out in front of him. Dylan Lee just spun coming onto the track behind him, as Carson Neal will let Burkhardt by.
There's Dylan Lee going to get a reset and go again. All the while, Forster navigates tower turn at the far side of the racetrack. Just ahead of him is Deacon Greenfield. Now, Deacon has had what I feel like has been a little bit of a rough go of it as of late. He had a slow start to the season, then really started to stitch things together. And I think with the low field count tonight, he stands a good chance not to get wrapped up in somebody else's problems. That's kind of been the story of his season. But Deacon right now sits P3. A nice strong effort here with 5 minutes to go. That's only going to be about a lap and a half worth of time here. So, you don't get a lot of bites at the apple here because the lap times are almost 2.5 minutes.
And I just hope, because of that, for Morgan Burkhardt's sake, that he puts some good times down, because he's not going to get really any draft. So those laps on his own are going to be pretty darn important, as Deacon Greenfield, like you're saying. He's pretty much a Pied Piper. He's being the one towing everyone along. He's towing Forrester along, Piatek along as well. But they have spread out a lot more in that line. But Burkhardt just going to try to go on his own. He's actually going to end up tagging along Carson Neal, probably for the next lap.
Yeah, and again, for Morgan, I think he'll look at this and say, all right, we have 20 minutes. There's only 14 cars in the field. Even if I qualify poorly, it's not a means for panic. But he made a comment last week after sweeping, as we got Deacon Greenfield down pit lane. Made a comment after sweeping the last round out at, where were we? Was it Barber last week?
2 weeks ago.
Sorry, Coda.
Barber.
That was Coda. He swept Coda, and he made the comment that, it's going to take him basically winning everything and some missteps by Camden Hibbett to come out on top. Now, Camden didn't really have an amazing round at Coda. Was only on the podium in one of the two races. So, that might be enough for Hibbett to lose this lead. It's really going to be between Camden and Morgan Burkhardt. However, if these two get tangled up, Beans Forster is not that far back from Camden, so keep him in the picture.
He's definitely still in the picture, but Burkhardt, no doubt he's got the hot hand, or I guess the hot wheel, you could say. Hot wheels, that's a fun one. We saw at Barber, at a track that it's kind of hard to pass at, not a lot of slipstream opportunities, so you're going to be racing really hard at a track like Barber. We saw them just about wreck each other numerous times, so it's very possible that it could come together, and they won't even mean it, as that lap puts Burkhardt 8th, so not really what he needs. Obviously no slipstream, so maybe not going to be as fast, but it would not be surprising to see them come together. They've raced each other so hard at the races that I have watched, and it only takes the slightest mistake to send two drivers off track into dirt, especially at a track like this. You have runoff in most places here, thankfully. You won't see that like next week at Chicago, so be careful next week, but I would not be surprised to see them come together. Yeah,
so Vansel Kemba in the 28 just made his way around the hairpin at turn number 7. All the way around the other side of the racetrack, James Newell and that is Dylan Lee. They've started a new lap. They will get to finish it. Most others will not get a chance to go another lap just because this is a heat format event. So as soon as that clock hits 0, we'll set up for the first of our 2 races. Really impressed with Newell's times here, though. Remember that he's 4th in the championship standings. So really it hasn't. Lee goes off. But Newell's had a nice season, and he got his first race win a little bit earlier in the season as well. So he was going to bail out of that lap. Doesn't feel it necessary to continue. I don't think anyone else is going to get to finish a lap other than those that are already on one.
I think Dylan Lee went wide out of 1. That's why he gave up. And I think Newell coming onto that part of the racetrack, I believe onto the Gurney bend, he also went wide, ended that lap. So I don't know if they planned to end those laps that early, but didn't really get a chance. Himmelsbach and Manis, they're going to end their laps. They're coming through the final corners. Then a few other drivers, like you said. Not many other drivers are going to get another lap in.
Carson Neal working his way around, still chasing Morgan Burkhardt. And even Camden, championship rival to Burkhardt, only 6th. So right now it's Newell, Forster, Piatek, Greenfield, your top 4.
I love how wide they go through that corner. It just goes against what your brain would think to do as a driver, because you got those lines thinking you don't want to go out there, but you fully can. Yeah,
diminishing returns, I think, beyond a certain point. But Morgan knows how to play that just right. I think he might be up in the green a little bit here, so he should be able to climb the order. I don't know that it'll be anywhere near pole without a pretty significant tow.
Gains a 10th for about a tenth he could get into the top 5. It's pretty close margins from 5th to 8th.
And he is up well into the green now as far as my scoring, if my scoring is to be believed, which sometimes it is not. 229.238. That is good enough for that 5th that you just talked about a moment ago.
And he got right up there. Carson Neal, you could kind of tell he was losing touch with Burkhardt on that lap, but he still put himself into, I believe, 6th position, so he got in front of Camden Hibbett.
Whoa, Morgan going for a little slide there, but qualifying is complete, so no worries there. Everyone else looks like they have finished up. Dave Brown goes 13th quick. Arif Aziz into 14th in the 212, and he is bailed out. So with that, qualifying is complete. We'll have a quick look here at the results before we get set up for our races. We're going to have fairly long pace laps here tonight as well, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about the stories and cover the partners, people that make this all happen. Newell, Forster, Piatek, Greenfield, and Burkhardt, your top 5. And it's going to get scrappy up there because the risk is so low with a field size that isn't quite as big as we're used to, Connor. I expect fully to see some scrappy hands-on racing tonight.
I would think the elbows are going to be out for sure. You have a decently long run to turn number 1, and it gets pretty tight pretty quickly with the grass coming on both sides in the first sector of the racetrack, especially in the middle of the top 10. Burkhardt, Hibbett, they're right on the bumper of each other on this initial start, and they're going to be trying to get through to the front as quick as possible, so they're probably going to be a little bit more impatient than they would normally be if they were starting at the front, so it should be a pretty exciting start.
Well, while the field is gridding up, one of the partners and people that makes this all happen is Full Send Sims. Practice makes podium. Here's a little bit more on FSS and Court Schmidt and others who put this all together.
Simulation will never replace real-world racing, and I don't want it to.
Full Send Sims provides custom-built, top-notch simulators from whatever your budget is. We want to find the best fit for you.
We build rigs for pro drivers where we go and measure their cars, every measurement one-to-one down to the millimeter. You can drive these sims and certify basically to race a car in the real world. Matter of fact, this weekend we have 2 guys that work with FSS that have strictly been sim racing for the last 5 years.
Absolutely did not think a year ago I'd be driving a race car this weekend. However, getting into the simulator, I think it really helped me get on the track and stay competitive.
I've been a sim racing instructor for about 2 years now. The benefit of working with me as a race coach, I'll get you to be a better driver, a lot faster, with a lot less mistakes than you could doing it on your own.
We take the sim building and the sim training as serious as possible. It's not a video game, it's a training tool.
Full Send Sims will offer fully custom-built rigs and delivered and installed into your own home and constant online service. What we offer is world-class, top-notch racing built by a community of racers who enjoy passionate, clean racing.
And welcome back to the FSS SMX Series, round number 13 of 15. Kyle Heyer once again joined by Connor Horn. The pace lap is underway. It is a long one, 3.7 miles until we go racing here tonight. Have a quick look at the weather on the right-hand side of the screen. 81 degrees air temp, 91 degree track temp. Humidity a little bit on the low side here for Central Florida, 42%, just a little bit of a breeze out of the east. And let's rip through our starting lineup, kicking things off. On the front row, it's James Newell and Beans Forster alongside him, Connor, in that number 23. He starts second.
You'll see what he can do from second. Olivier Piatek, he starts third. Deacon Greenfield in the 20 will start fourth.
And in row number 3, it's Morgan Burkhardt in the number 67, quickly approaching championship leader Camden Hibbett, but it's Carson Neal that will start to his outside in position number 6.
I thought you were going to say he was in the 6-7, but I think we should let that die. Camden Hibbett will start in the 7th position. He has a big task to try to get in front of Morgan Burkhardt. Dylan Lee will start in 8th.
And in row number 5, it's Hayden Menace in the number 65, and alongside him, William Vansel Kemma in the number 28. Great looking livery on board that car. Green and white. Always think that looks sharp. He rolls off on the outside of that 5th row.
Yeah, the pickle car as well. I saw that in NASCAR a few times.
Yeah.
Nate Himmelsbach will start in the 11th position. Jim Friedhofer, just right orange number 89 car, will start 12th.
And in 13th place, it's Dave Brown in the 105, followed by Arif Aziz. That will wrap up our 14-car grid here tonight. So that is your starting lineup. Before we get rolling, we already heard about and from Full Send Sims, but 3P Logistics, Track Services, and they give you trackside support that takes you cradle to grave as far as your track day or track event weekend. Make sure you check them out. Of course, Final Turn Motorsports has also been with us since the very beginning. Full service prep shop. So check out Final Turn Motorsports. Of course, FARA has some great motorsport events that have started in the Southeast, based out of Florida and the Homestead Miami Speedway, but they've expanded in recent seasons. Got some really great spectator-focused energy there. So if you want to check out FARA, give them a go. And then, of course, Sunbelt, some great safety solutions. Official safety provider there of Full Send Sims. And then, of course, Wine Country Motorsports, race gear and equipment. They answer the phone when their online retail friends will not. So check out Wine Country Motorsports. They also have Full Send Sims inside them now in one of their locations in Florida. So really neat stuff, all inclusive. And we'll head back to the racetrack here to get doubled up to go racing tonight. 2 20-minute races back to back. It'll be about 9 laps. If they get a little scrappy, I could see that dropping to 8 with these really long lap times. This is a high-speed racetrack for these cars, Connor. You're keeping them tacked up a lot. How aggressive do you think they'll be on the start, and how much do you think they'll wait till that last lap maneuver we always see here?
I think this first lap will be pretty aggressive for everyone within the top 8. I think those top 8 especially are going to be racing really hard with each other to try to get track position early, and then just try to keep after that, whatever you get, and then try to claw back whatever you can at the end of the race and try to put yourself in a position where you're in the top 3 or 4 for that final run to the start-finish line. I think that's where you want to be.
All right, well, James Newell in the green and gray car leads the field out of turn number 17, Sunset Bend. There will be no sunset tonight. We're racing in the daylight. It's time to go racing in the FSS SMX Series in round 13 of Season 2, 2025. Green flag, and we're underway. Newell off to a pretty strong start. The field thunders to turn 1. Piatek up the inside there, having a look, going to make it 3 wide now. Morgan Burkhardt is in the center. Tight quarters into this first turn, Connor.
And you can't really do 3 wide through this section, coming up pretty easily as Piatek got a big bump there from Morgan Burkhardt. We're going to try 3 wide as we got Piatek, Newell, and Forster all in a row.
Yeah, funnels down here into turn 3. I can't believe we've made it here without any contact. Newell's still 3 wide, and Newell's going to come out on top. I thought he'd be 5th by the exit of turn 3, but he held on to it. Nice work.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I saw the car in the background off, but they kept it straight. Deacon Greenfield, really only driver to get a little bit of damage out of that, as he's obviously, these front ends pretty fragile. Forster's going to look drivers left here, which is pretty tough to do in the hairpin, making that work, and it's tough to exit side by side.
Yeah, down into turn 7 now. They call this the safety pin. Forster trying to slot back in now as you come through Fangio here. Newell and Forster, I thought he might be able to get some overlap there, but you're on the wrong side of the road. The next 2 turns are to the right, but he's still going to try to wrap that momentum up the outside, and Forster pokes ahead for the lead for a moment.
Got the nose ahead. All he can really do here is fire it in hard and hope that he can get the run off, and Newell did not really enter that corner aggressively, so nice move around the outside for Beans Forster to get that lead. Piatek up to 3rd, Greenfield 4th, Burkhardt 5th, as they're almost 3 wide for 6th. Kevin Hibbett's right in the middle of that.
Yeah, I was holding off. That was Hayden Manis in the 65 that jumped the curb there, leaving Cunningham turn 10. He's going to jump the curb there, leaving Tower as well, but clambers back onto the course. So far, so good. And Forster, Newell, Piatek lead into Bishop's Bend here.
The top 3 got away, and you saw there from James Newell, he could have looked drivers left, drivers right, tried to poke the nose, maybe make a move, but thought better of it, wants to stay in line, at least for the time being, as they make that wide left swing to get into a right-hander onto this long back straightaway. As those top 3 kind of separated themselves from Morgan Burkhardt, he got by Greenfield for that 4th spot. Now the draft breaking, a little bit of side weaving here and there, and Newell's got the run. Now he wants to take it.
Yeah, he's going to try to get it back and lead this first lap. It's amazing how fast they're going to go. Look at all these 3 drivers messing about. That's going to lead Morgan Burkhardt to do the over-under here. Maybe a little contact into 17.
Yeah, Newell and Piatek kind of bumped him at the end of the straightaway when Newell was going into the braking zone, and Beans Forster was almost the odd man out. Look at how close they get to those tire barriers out of the final corner. That gave Burkhardt a pretty good run. Yeah,
he's going to have Piatek here in the crosshairs, and then you see just ahead Forster and Newell. Line astern into turn 1. Burkhardt's going to shorten the distance. See the big push there through that first turn, though. Can't get the thing rotated. Hibbett's on the outside of Greenfield fighting for 5th.
Pretty intense battles all the way through the field for the lead for the 5th position. Battle for 8th is 2x2 back there of Dylan Lee and Hayden Manis. They had contact entering turn 1, and they were looking 3 wide as they're starting to lose those top 7 or so.
Yeah, with such a small field here, I would be cautioning these drivers to get into too many scrums amongst themselves. Focus on the bigger picture here. This is one of those nights that you could snag a win just with some bad luck for the leaders. But Newell leads into turn 7, and here comes Burkhardt popping out of line late on the brakes, but not late enough.
You can tell he was a little late. He was kind of weaving back and forth under braking. He didn't really have it fully under control. He was able to make it work. It gave Piatek a little bit of a run to try to get maybe some overlap into the next set of corners, but he just couldn't quite make it work.
Captain Hibbett, in recent weeks, the pressure has been mounting a little bit more. You see the heart rate up into the 120 range for a moment. He really should continue to do his best to try to keep Burkhardt behind him instead of letting him chip away at the points. But little by little, Burkhardt has closed that gap, and Hibbett is on defense and offense at the same time right now.
Trying to defend in the grand scheme of things, but tonight he has to be on offense because Morgan Burkhardt's doing all the work and getting cars in between him and Camden Hibbett right now. It's only one car, just Piatek, but we know how strong Piatek can be, so not necessarily the easiest of passes. It's Deacon Greenfield and Carson Neal. They battled for 6th, as those top 5 are pretty tight on one another. Greenfield and Neal kind of fading off of this. Deacon Greenfield not had a great start.
Yeah, going backwards there a little early. Carson Neal, I think, also surprised to see him fighting down the order. Down the order, still top 10, but I think I would have seen a little bit more pace out of him, perhaps. But see Piatek poking out to the outside. I always like this, getting set up on driver's left and then cutting in to the inside. We're going to be 3 wide, and Burkhardt's going for it, and Newell missed the turn.
Yeah, he just completely missed the turn, and I like setting up drivers left at that driver to your right side doesn't blow the corner, but that really hurt Forster's run, and it let Morgan Burkhardt get both of them. Forster does have to run into turn number 1 if he wants it. He's going to take drivers right.
This is that scrapping we were talking about. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable doing this in a 14-car field than if it was 30 deep. A little mistake here, a little mistake there. It's not going to pull you completely out of the points. Here comes Hibbett now, sensing some pressure that he needs to catch Burkhardt, but didn't get a great run out of turn 1.
No, not quite, and they're going to really stack up behind Burkhardt. And now this is the worst place you could have Morgan Burkhardt, in the lead of the race and able to control the race. Just like we saw at Barber, I would not be surprised if we saw him start to slow the pace down, especially through the entry to center of these corners, even in the hairpin as well, just to keep everyone pretty stacked up so that driver in second can't just make a move with no risk.
Beans to the outside. Piatek's going to chase him over there. Burkhardt on defense, standing the thing up on the nose into the braking zone, but as long as you're on the inside there, that's such a long duration corner, you should be able to come out on top with adequate braking.
Hibbett really pushed the issue. He got 4th from James Newell, but he barely chopped the nose, almost chopped the nose off the 123.
Look at the time flying by. We're almost halfway done with this race. That's how quick it's going to go. Hibbett again fighting Newell. Just not quite battling where I thought we'd expect to see Hibbett battling. This was true at Coda last week as well. I expect to be 1st and 2nd. All right, contact, and Greenfield's going to get shuffled and almost gets tangled up there with Carson Neal at corner exit.
I don't know. It's almost like James Newell hit the brakes and just went wide. I don't know what that was about, but definitely ran Deacon Greenfield off track. Lucky it wasn't worse, but Greenfield's got even more heavy damage now.
Yeah, he didn't seem stoked about that either. Right there, he kind of got crowded a little, caused some damage to the nose of that car. See it here now.
Forster just got a little bit of a tap from Piatek coming onto the straightaway, and that let Burkhardt get the gap that he needed, at least for now.
Yeah, these two battling, Forster and Piatek, they have to be cautious here, giving Morgan Burkhardt an opportunity to start to run. But Piatek's going to poke the nose to the inside anyway and have a look.
He's going to get it done. Forster going to try to cross over. A little bit of a tap to the back of the 62, and they're going to stay side by side. Didn't lose too much to Burkhardt doing that. Really, it's pretty much the gap's the same, so no harm, no foul. They battle for 2nd, battle for, I believe, 6th is 3 wide. Hayden Manis has joined the fight.
Yeah, it's Neal, Manis, Greenfield 3 across into turn 1. Greenfield on the inside, going to send it down there. Manis on the outside, tight quarters here, and that's going to leave Neal to cross him over.
And Hayden Manis not even close to making the corner, and I think Carson Neal thought he'd get both of them, but it was actually, it worked out pretty well for Hayden Manis if he didn't get a slowdown out of it. And Carson Neal really got pinched off the apex of that corner, so he's fallen down the order a couple of spots all of a sudden.
Whew, that was a tense moment for a handful of drivers in that group. All the while, Burkhardt has been slowly inching away. Piatek and Forster unable to keep pace with them at the moment in this order.
And eventually you got to get whoever's the next fastest, the best challenger to Morgan Burkhardt, they probably have to lead that line. Otherwise, Burkhardt's going to get away. Now, it looked like Piatek at least maintained with Burkhardt there, and Forster's actually faded off him a little bit.
I don't really know which is the strongest locomotive for this train, but I know that none of them are going to be catching Burkhardt on time at this rate. So they've got to really put their heads together here, because Morgan is proving again why he's a multi-time champion. And they haven't even really, he snuck by him without them really even having a chance to protest. He just kind of went through and took the lead. Big bounce there off of the Tower Bend curb, though. That cost him some time.
It was really James Newell missing the corner with Forster to his driver's left. It let Burkhardt get the lead, and then he's driven away ever since. But Piatek might have something left for him. If he could just stay within a half-second range, he could get pretty good slipstream down this straightaway, and then the next straightaway, obviously. He definitely gained a lot of that time. This could be Burkhardt just backing things up, especially right there. I mean, he backed things up big time. He did not really want that gap to be that big.
Right, and he closed it, but I don't know that he closed it enough, because Piatek's going to have a run here. So the battle's going to be back on. Now the key for everyone else, like Forster, is to go, how about 3 wide? Let's make this real fun. Why not?
Piatek seemed like he wanted that. He just pretty much gave him the middle of the racetrack. He's even going to brake much earlier. That brings Camden Hibbett right to the back of Morgan Burkhardt. Brings Forster trying a different line way on the outside, a little bit too wide there. Gives Burkhardt the advantage. Camden Hibbett might go all the way to second through this, as they're going to be side by side, and Burkhardt's kind of got them right where they want him now. Yeah,
so I thought that might have worked out for Piatek to bail out of that mess, but it didn't. And instead, Camden Hibbett's the big winner in all that. And this is kind of the battle that we were waiting to see at COTA that never happened. Hibbett on the outside here, tight quarters between who I imagine will be the championship rivals here coming down to the wire in 2 weeks.
I don't think Piatek wanted to be a part of that, but he backed off too much. He actually lost a lot of ground. He went from second to the 5th position. As Hibbett's going to blink out, that's never going to help the battle. They're going to stay side by side, and it's going to stack up the entire top 6 back up. Little bit of contact there. Burkhardt muscles his way back clear to the lead.
Yeah, so we'll see if Beans gives him a little shove here. Little bit of side-to-side contact. Oh, no! And Hibbett gets turned off hard and slammed into the concrete. And that is exactly what he did not need. And that car is destroyed. I don't think he'll be able to finish the race with that.
I doubt he's going to lift that one back. That's so easy. That can happen so easily when you have a bump draft gone wrong and there's another car pinching him. I mean, he had no room to maneuver that really at all. He's going to try to limp that thing around the racetrack. He's getting a bump, little bump here, little bump there, a little out of control, and he's getting pinched. I believe that was Newell, and just sends him around. And no soft wall there, hard concrete, and completely destroyed the left front as he's going to stop on track, reset. Huge mistake. Not a mistake, just a bad racing deal.
Looking at that, it's hard to really, did Hibbett drift wide a little bit? Perhaps. Could Newell have left more space? Absolutely. Once they got together, there was some, some big-time net code there because Hibbett's connection wasn't so great. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, that's going to take Hibbett out of the, well, I don't want to say out of it yet, but that is a huge detriment to his defense on Burkhardt for the championship, especially while the 67 is leading.
And he's going to have, I believe, he's going to have to climb all the way through the field in the next race as well. So that's another wrinkle in things. If he wants to keep pace with Burkhardt, he's going to have to come through pretty much the entire field. He's going to probably finish in a 13th position. So literally worst case scenario just about.
Yeah, not exactly what he was hoping for. I know that. But so that leaves the lead locomotive as Beans Forster to run down Burkhardt. And with that, that's actually a big gain for Forster because he was actually the runner-up to Hibbett as recently as our points have been calculated. So keep Morgan honest, but it's going to be really hard to outmaneuver Morgan. As far as it comes to racecraft, the only driver that's really been able to stick it to Morgan in these intense moments has been Hibbett. So Beans, I think, has a little bit left to learn. And we'll see if he'll get up on that wheel and go for it.
We'll see what Burkhardt does here. He's really got only Forster behind him, so it would be surprised to see him check that lineup, bring Hayden Manis and Newell into this. And how about Hayden Manis? He's going off-road right now, but he's gone all the way up to 3rd.
Yeah, and he started back in 9th. This is a pretty big gain. That gives credence to the idea that maybe Hibbett could come back forward in race 2. There's still 7 minutes left, though that's only probably 2 or 3 laps when we get back to the stripe, so we'll have to keep our eye on the clock. But good gain there for Hayden.
Really spread out the field, at least in the top 5, a lot. I mean, you got these 4 kind of away. Deacon Greenfield just not as strong right now, hanging back off that lead line, and then he's actually got a gap back to Carson Neal, who really faded a few minutes ago. Piatek's back to 6th, as he really, when he gave up all those positions, he was not able to maintain for whatever reason. He's really faded as well.
So competitive here. If you give up spots, it becomes really hard to wrench them back. And to your point about Greenfield, I have to imagine the little bit of front end contact he had that caused that damage is affecting him a little bit. You know, going back to Barber, you know, the front ends of these cars are pretty fragile here in iRacing, and it didn't really cause a lot of strife there because you're not carrying that much speed. But here at Sebring, you're at VMAX in a couple of places, so that damage will affect you. As Manis had a momentary look at Beans there, but tower turn, never really a good place to look for an overtake.
I would think so as well. I think not only the first bit of contact Greenfield got, but I think the mini incident with James Newell, it kind of knocked the right front. You can see it kind of hanging in the air a little bit, so definitely the aero not looking too good on that 20 car, and probably why he's struggling to keep pace.
Slipping and sliding here into Le Mans, turn 16, and setting up for this long backstretch. Thinking back to previous events we've had here at Sebring before, you know, this is one of those tracks that you can make a pass on that final lap, but it all comes down to how you set up Morgan Burkhardt. And I think there's going to be a lot of testing and trials sorted out here the next few minutes.
There's some trials back there with Greenfield. He chased Carson Neal all the way to the right side wall as they're all over each other back there. But once again, you can see Burkhardt kind of checking that line up, making sure 3rd and 4th are right in the picture, so Forster can't make that move without risking giving up those positions.
So into turn 1, Burkhardt turns in. 2 laps to go this time is what we're seeing. So this is only going to be an 8-lap race. And here comes Beans with a look up the inside. I thought he might go for it into 3, but he forced Morgan to drive in pretty hard, and Manis and Newell now battling for 3rd.
It kind of put Hayden Manis off. He pretty much missed the entrance to the corner. That's going to let James Newell try to get back into that top 3 as they're going to stay side by side, so it's really just going to end up hurting both of them.
Yeah, I don't know that that's what Forster wants either. I think he needs a little bit more energy from behind. And with Manis and Newell having just lost 5 or 6 car lengths to fighting amongst themselves, I don't know that he's going to have that energy he needs. We'll keep our eyes on this, but if I'm Manis and Newell, I know that this is going to come down to turn 17. I want to be in that fight.
Yeah, they're going to have to work together a little bit here to get back up to them because they lost actually about half a second doing that, even more than that. It's up to 0.6 of a second. It's really, at most, a 4-horse race at this point. Carson Neal's gotten the 5th. Good recovery for him, but definitely without contact, not going to get there in time. Right now, it's Burkhardt and Forster. And Forster just, like you said, hoping maybe to get a little bit of help from behind when it matters on that final run down to the final corner. But he needs to at least stay a little bit closer to Burkhardt for that to happen. And we kind of saw at Barber, when Burkhardt wants to turn it on, if he saved the tire, he can just kind of get away, and you can't do anything about it. So we'll see if Burkhardt's able to do that.
Yeah, they'll see that white flag next time by, so the strategy and planning is going to start to break out. I mean, this is a chess match. You got to think a couple corners ahead. And I'll bet you Morgan's even further ahead than everybody else. Whatever you do to Morgan, he's already got a plan for. And that's why he's been so dominant in this series in the past.
Only call him Dr. Strange, but I think that's copyrighted. He knows every outcome. He knows every probability.
Up the straightaway here, you see Beans just testing the waters here. How much can I lay back? How much gap do I need? And Morgan's going to see them sizing him up right here. And Beans is going to go for it, coming to the white. Morgan next time is not going to give Beans that opportunity. He's going to try to check him up in turn 16 in a really abrupt way. And Beans has to be anticipating that. White flag.
Forster, I think he tried to take him by surprise and just not really a Hail Mary, but he definitely went up for a little bit of a risky move, trying to see if he could catch Morgan Burkhardt off his game a little bit, and Burkhardt was able to maintain. Now he's going to go driver's left. You saw Burkhardt really drive it in deep and cleared him back and got the run off the corner, so that shows how much tire he's got left.
And for Camden Hibbett, his biggest, or I guess for Beans, his biggest fan is Camden Hibbett, because Beans can take away some points that Morgan would otherwise almost have by default with how good he's been. Oh, big lateral slide for Beans there. That was not the corner he needed. You see him lose precious ground. And if Hayden Manis challenges him here before 17, I think it's game over.
Yeah, Manis got a lot closer that time. Newell's kind of fading back, and Forster's still close enough to be within striking distance, but he has to have a perfect middle sector here. As you can kind of see Burkhardt inching over to kind of check up the corner and really put Beats Forster off, as Manis got a huge hit from Newell because of that checkup.
Yeah, they were definitely going in there a little bit light, and that Newell did not get the memo and just drove into the back of Manis, but Manis did a phenomenal job keeping that car in check, and Forster is all over Burkhardt. Burkhardt goes defensive into Cunningham.
Brought Carson Neal back into that fight for a third, as this is definitely Burkhardt trying to play the game the way he wants it to be played, but now they're dead even. He's going to try to push him wide, but I kind of like where Forster is now.
Yeah, he's not quite going to be able to clear him. He used him up a little bit, though, and they're going to head to tower turn side by side. This is almost always going to be advantage inside line, but Beans sticks it out here, and he does.
No choice. But this might be where Burkhardt wants to be. Maybe he wants to be in line to have that slipstream, but right now he's not really in the best spot, and the bump is going to go from Manis to Forster to clear him for the lead, and Manis might get second.
Yeah, they're all ganging up on Morgan now, and this is kind of what they needed to do if they wanted to give themselves the best shot at winning this thing. So move Forster and Manis past. Burkhardt slots into third, and now he's going to be on offense on the back straightaway. Not over yet. Oh, Beans missed the corner by 10 feet.
Burkhardt's going to be in a good position, as is Hayden Manis. It's like Dale Jr. at the super speedways. Just don't work with him and you're going to beat him. But Manis, he's going to have to run. He's going to look drivers left, and it looks like Beans Forster, his only chance is going to be able to hang it around the outside and do an over-under in the final corner. Morgan Burkhardt could go drivers right into the apron. He's going to go. This is tight.
Yeah, and I think this is going to work out in Morgan's favor, but Beans over-under, and he's going to try to get there, but he runs out of room, and just like that, Burkhardt is so impressive at reading the road. A little bit of shuffling in the background coming to the checkers. Contact, and first place goes to Burkhardt. Second place was Manis by a nose, 4 1/1000ths between those two.
I thought they had him. I thought they finally figured it out, but they just gave Morgan Burkhardt enough room to the inside to make that work, and there's nothing much Hayden Manis could really do. If he tries to block Burkhardt off, he's not going to have any entry to the corners.
Yeah,
so
we'll go back and look at it again. I want to get the results in here before the session turns on over, but there's a look at your top 10. Burkhardt gets it. Manis, Forster, Newell, Neal. Then Piatek, Greenfield, Wenzel, Kemma, Dylan Lee, and Nate Himmelsbach. And a brief look there at page 2. Freidhofer, Brown, Hibbett, unfortunately with that crash, and Arif Aziz. All right, session is turned over, so let's go back and have a look at that last run to the checkers, because Morgan Burkhardt just taught everybody something new about that inside lane. It can be used to win when you're right up against that wall. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, we got Forster. He gets the lead. Hayden Manis not in a bad spot. He's obviously got to go drivers right here, but Burkhardt's now going to get the run on both of them, kind of side drafting each other. He's the only one on the slipstream, and nothing Hayden Manis can really do. If he shuts that off, he's going to have no exit, so Burkhardt's got to go for kind of a Hail Mary, but I think Hayden Manis got scared. He drove it in a little bit too hard, and it let Burkhardt get all the room he needed to use all the room he needed, and he was able to shut down the crossover from Forster, and it left those two to go side by side, banging wheels, banging doors to the line. He almost wrecked right here.
Yeah, right there. That was close, and Beans ended up missing it. But watch Beans here. This was a successful strategy, except right there, the wall juts out a little bit, and that kept him from getting that optimal line to turn in at just the right moment. So that cost Beans a shot there. But going back, I mean, I don't know that if Burkhardt had intentionally lost ground to put himself in this position, but a lap ago he was leading this race. And then he wasn't, and then look where he puts himself. You know, he knows at this stage that he's not in control of this race. And what he's going to do here is slot himself into third and set up for that back straight. But watch Beans ahead. This is the camera we were on board with live. So Beans is going to try to set himself up for this run. He goes too far out and can't get back to the apex, and that is what caused that stack up that gave Burkhardt the opportunity.
And that really goes back to the bend right before Le Mans curve. I mean, he kind of missed that curbing a little bit. He didn't get far enough left there, so he was already playing catch-up to try to get that apex onto the straightaway, and then he missed that. That part of a track, you really need to set it up 2 to 3 corners back, and obviously that hurt him. He could have had a much bigger gap. He could have been in control, but he kind of lost control because of that mistake. All
right, well, full send Sims. Practice makes podium, and Morgan Burkhardt just got some winning practice. We're going to step away for another moment. We'll be back with more FSS SMX Racing. Race number 2, another 20-minute sprint coming up next.
Simulation will never replace real-world racing, and I don't want it to.
Full Send Sims provides custom-built, top-notch simulators from whatever your budget is. We want to find the best fit for you.
We build rigs for pro drivers where we go and measure their cars, every measurement one-to-one down to the millimeter. You can drive these sims and certify basically to race a car in the real world. Matter of fact, this weekend we have 2 guys that work with FSS that have strictly been sim racing for the last 5 years.
Absolutely did not think a year ago I'd be driving a race car this weekend. However, getting into the simulator, I think it really helped me get on the track and stay competitive.
I've been a sim racing instructor for about 2 years now. The benefit of working with me as a race coach, I'll get you to be a better driver a lot faster with a lot less mistakes than you could doing it on your own.
We take the sim building and the sim training as serious as possible. It's not a video game, it's a training tool.
Full Send Sims will offer fully custom-built rigs and delivered and installed into your own home and constant online service. What we offer is world-class, top-notch racing built by a community of racers who enjoy passionate, clean racing.
And Sebring International Raceway, definitely a home track for a handful of drivers here tonight. And race 1, pretty thrilling all the way to the end. A lot of shifting and shuffling on that last lap. But championships starting to come to a head here. We've got 2 rounds remaining. One at the Chicago Street Course, and then one at Mount Panorama in Australia. Kyle Heyer joined by Connor Horn. Race 2 coming up here in just about a minute. Connor, there's a lot of unknowns about to come at the tail end of this season. The only known thing is how a Sebring race will look. So, you know, for Camden Hibbett, you can only control what you can control. Race 1 was bad, but are you already focusing on next week? We know this race is going to kind of go how Sebring goes, but how much focus do you put in to those tracks like Chicago, like Mount Panorama, that you've likely never driven an MX-5 around before?
I think regardless of the outcome tonight, he's going to have to be ready, and he's got to try to put himself a step above Morgan Burkhardt, even if that's not possible in some drivers' eyes, even maybe in his eyes. But he's got to try completely different tracks than what we've been used to. Obviously, Chicago, very closed street course. You're not going to have runoff to deal with. Like, we've seen everyone going off track on the exit of turn 1. You're not going to have any of that at Chicago because you're going to be in the fence and you're going to be wrecked. We could see a lot of destruction next week at Chicago, and I think, you know, next 2 weeks he's got to be on top of it, practicing, figuring out what he can do, what he can't do, how you get through that corner, you know, it's stuff like that. And then Bathurst, kind of the same deal. You have some places with runoff, but most of it in the mountains, you're not going to have anywhere to hide. I mean, that track is going to be a beast for those SMX cars, and it's going to be pretty entertaining. But all he can focus on is if he can get a step over Morgan Burkhardt, he's got to put in the work to do it. And I think he's still focusing on today. If he could still, I think he could still come from the back to get into the top 5, something like that, and be in contention. But he's got to be maybe a little more careful with where he puts his car. It wasn't really his fault tonight when that incident happened, but you put your car in certain situations, bad things can happen. It's just a product of this type of racing.
Yeah, you made a point that, you know, I think is worth touching on, is that there's nowhere you can hide here. There's no easy way out for Camden Hibbett. To win this title, you've got to perform. And I think his performances were strongest in the middle of the season. He had not the best start ever, and he certainly, the last couple of weeks, have not been what he's been hoping for. Race 1 was what I would call catastrophic for a championship hopeful. So he's really got to right the ship here and get back on the podium and let the rest take care of itself. Don't make the math easier for Morgan if you can help it. Cars are rolling now for race number 2. This is the pace lap. We'll still have another 2 minutes or so before we'll get the green flag. What did we learn about the run into turn 17? Connor, I don't know that I've seen that inside move pulled off so successfully before. All the way against the concrete wall, and Morgan still came out ahead.
Yeah, it was really crazy that he was able to he never really wavered off the bottom part of the racetrack in that corner, turn 17. I mean, we saw Hayden Manis go really wide, took himself out of the contention for the win, and Burkhardt didn't really enter the corner that much softer than Hayden Manis. He was just able to utilize his brakes better and maintain the bottom line, and he was able to shut off Forrester's crossover, which is pretty impressive. It was honestly shocking to see that work after I thought he was dead in the water. I don't know if you can see other drivers perfect that. I think if someone else tries that, I'd be worried because they just saw Morgan Burkhardt try it. They think they can do it. We could see a crash there at the end of the race very easily. But you're going to see some daring moves now at that part of the racetrack because of what we just saw. And I think you're not going to try to give up drivers right if you're in the lead, again, if you're Beats Forrester. He could have protected over there a little bit more aggressively, let 2 drivers get to his inside. It pretty much cost him a first and second. That definitely cost him that. So we could see a different strategy if you're the leader coming onto that part of the track, exiting 16th.
I think you're exactly bang on about all those things as the field works their way around. It's a little bit later in the day, I believe, or is it morning? It is, well, no, it's 1:47 in the afternoon, but
got some shade.
A little bit of shade over the racetrack, and you'll note that the track temp has dropped just a little bit. I don't know that that's always a huge deal here. You're not going to face a lot of tire wear, but certainly sliding these cars around on the concrete, that high abrasion surface can lead to overheating your tires.
If we were 30 degrees hotter, it would be a difference, or 40.
Yes,
But
yes.
88 probably should be pretty stuck.
Yeah, 88 compared to 92 in the previous race, and not a huge difference there. So Camden will be fun to watch. Another driver that kind of dropped down the order a little bit was Deacon Greenfield. I know he has been hoping for some better results. Not terrible race 1, but qualified higher than that.
Also Piatek, I mean, I think he's going to start in the 6th position. That really wasn't the race I expected from him. Just didn't really fight at the front as much as we were used to seeing, at least what I was used to seeing at Barber. So we'll see. You know, he had a little front end damage, but it really wasn't that much. So we'll see if he can maybe fight a little bit harder at the front this time.
Yeah, I think with Olivier, it was just what we've been talking about, how competitive this series has gotten, that, you know, if you get shuffled out of the lead, it can be really, really hard to get it back. So, you know, while some drivers make it look very easy and they're placing the car in all the right spots, if everyone's, you know, at the limit of the vehicle, it gets really hard to undo your mistakes. So, you know, Olivier bailed out of a pass into turn 17 to avoid getting caught up in a potential collision, and that risk aversion cost him position. So we'll see if he's a little bit more daring this time around.
Yeah, really, it was weird how he was in 2nd position, so it's not like he wasn't at the front, but he was, you know, battling for the lead down this straightaway, and he backed off because he saw the chaos coming around him. He fell back to 5th, but he just couldn't get those positions back. So like you were saying, it's a very tough field to go from back to front end, which is why it's going to be really hard for Camden Hibbett to get through the field, even though I think he can do it. But the track position matters in these cars in this type of racing, so you can't really give that up.
No, you can't. Burkhardt in command of the field. A little awkward slowdown there as Hayden Manis had jumped ahead. So the field will get stacked up, and we'll try this again. Race 2, 20 minutes on the board. Green flag. We're underway again in the FSS SMX Series here at Sebring. Oh, look at no time wasted by Greenfield in that number 20 car to the inside.
Yeah, I think that maybe some drivers hit here and there. This is going to be a tight entry to turn number 1. I could see in the background Camden Hibbett muscling his way through. There's contact. Nate Himmelsbach is going to almost crash. He kept it out of the barrier somehow, but that was a product of Camden Hibbett shoving it to the inside, 3 wide, trying to get spots early.
Impressed with that save. That was impressive there for Himmelsbach, although it'll take him pretty far out of the running, unfortunately. Burkhardt leads Manis to 2nd. Forster, Newell, Piatek, and Hibbett up a couple spots there into 10th, and he's got to keep this pressure on.
That's all he can do. He's got to try to get them 1 by 1. Can't really go for 3 positions in 1 corner. He's got a good run on Dylan Lee. He can take it if he wants it. Lee went a little protective there, but Hibbett's going to go a little wider. Driver's right, get to his inside, not trying to push the issue to get to Carson Neal. He's going to get that job done. That's how he's going to have to do it.
I think he thought about going to the inside of Neal, but then you saw that extra little bit of retardation there when he got to the braking zone, knowing that if he tried to sneak up the inside and Neal turned in, it would be blamed on him. So that was savvy racing there. Forster, Newell side by side for 3rd into Cunningham.
Another tight part of the track to be side by side, but we saw Forster make this work on the final lap to get the lead. And he's able to get that position from Newell, shuts him off driver's right, but gives Newell a little room and really fired into the corner. Piatek tried to take advantage. A little bit of contact there. Forster knows how to get around that part of the racetrack pretty well, inside or outside.
Yeah, and just noting Deacon Greenfield up 1 spot, but looking really racy on the back of Piatek here. And Manis poking ahead for the lead and got through. Did Morgan Burkhardt pick up a slowdown or something?
That's the only thing I could think of. He pretty much gave him the spot, so not sure where that slowdown would have came, but definitely giving up the lead for the time being.
Just go back a little bit. I don't see didn't make any major cuts. Let's see, skip ahead a little bit. Was it the inside of Bishop? No, he just ran out wide and let Hayden take it, unless he had a slowdown from somewhere else.
Hayden Manis being different.
Why not, I suppose?
I'm not sure why Burkhardt did that. Maybe he doesn't want to lead it. Maybe he didn't want to be in that situation again. I don't know. He doesn't want to be in a position where he has to go third to first.
There's also probably a mental component to this. You know, he mentioned that he was going to make Camden Hibbett's life miserable. That crash didn't help, but I also wonder if Morgan's going to go back there and kind of mess around with Camden Hibbett's progress. You know, Morgan's really good. I've said this many times, that he's really good at driving other people's cars via his own. So, you know, he can place his car in such a way that it makes everyone else drive differently. And that could be a key strategy in making Hibbett make another mistake.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, because Hibbett's making good progress. He just got the 7th position away into turn 1 from Vance Alkema in the 28 car, the pickup car, which you didn't see a lot of at the first race, but he's up into that 8th position. And Hibbett's pretty much already at the tail end of what I would say is the lead line right now. He's got Deacon Greenfield to deal with next, as Burkhardt solidly trying to get that position back, or at least on the bumper of Manis.
Yeah, it looks pretty tidy up here for the time being. All line to stern. See Dylan Lee pop out of line. He'll take 8th from Vance Alkema, who's a new entrant this season. Has quickly been getting up to speed and has had a pretty perfect attendance record, I think, since he joined us, I think 2 or 3 rounds in.
Just interested to see what Burkhardt does if he keeps Manis in the lead this entire time. Maybe he wants to manage from second. It was very fascinating to me that he did that just out of nowhere. Definitely, I look back at it, no slowdowns anywhere, so this is just really his decision to run second.
How often do you hear that from a race car driver?
Never.
Yeah, I think there's got to be something else going on strategically here. I don't know if he's learning. He didn't really spend a lot of time in traffic last race, so maybe there's something to this. Have a couple laps behind the leader and sort of figure out where your strengths are relative to them. It's really hard to do that in the mirror. So knowing that he's got the strength to probably get back by Manis at will, take a couple laps and learn some things.
At least gives Hayden Manis a chance to see what he can do from the race lead. I remember he led coming into the final corner and exited 3rd and ended up 2nd, so maybe he could figure out a few things that he did wrong. Maybe he can learn how to hold the line a little bit, but right now it's a 3-car train, because Beans Forrester doesn't want to pass Morgan Burkhardt either, even though he could.
Beans is also trying to kind of relive those last moments of race 1 and figure out how he can set that corner up just that much better. I think he had the trajectory almost right. He just had to lift because of that wall, how it sharpens in the middle of the apex there. Can you believe he just finished lap 2? These are long laps with these cars.
Sometimes they say it goes by quick, but the laps certainly don't.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it feels like the race goes by quick, but the laps absolutely take forever. Dave Brown and Arif Aziz having a little trade-in positions here. Oh. And trouble, Deacon Greenfield off at 3.
Not a good night for him at all. That was him and Dylan Lee just coming together.
We'll jump back on the racetrack, but right here, leaving turn 1.
He already kind of pushed him wide.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bit wide off the curbing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate there. And so we go back to the lead. And in that time, Burkhardt is taking it back from Hayden Manis, so experiment complete, I'd have to imagine.
I would think so. I mean, I think he's just done, like you said, experimenting and just going to try to control this lead. Maybe he wants to keep Hayden Manis in the running so he doesn't have to deal with Forrester or anyone else around him. That might be a possibility as well, to try to keep that buffer, with that buffer being Hayden Manis. And it was a pretty relatively easy move over there into the hairpin. Just pretty much got the drivers right and made the pass.
The tower turn here. About a lap away from halfway. And again, we've got a split behind 6th. Camden Hibbett has been stuck here, which is peculiar. This is sort of the same spot we found him stuck in at COTA last week.
Because when everyone's in that slipstream single file, you know, unless someone gets into a battle, it's kind of hard to make up those positions, because almost all these drivers are dead even on lap time at this point. So really hard to make that ground up because any slipstream that Hibbett has, Piatek's got the same thing, so you can't really gain much out of it.
I admire the patience that Hibbett has had tonight. I mean, we saw him during the wreck. He was upset, but didn't lose his cool. I think that's critical, you know, keeping your composure in a tough night as we got a battle for the lead here, Connor.
Yeah, Hayden Manis looked driver's right pretty late. He almost hurt himself across Beans Forrester's nose as here comes the crossover, and that really hurt Forrester as that really stacked everything up. It's going to leave James Newell the loser because Piatek and Hibbett might go by. It got Manis to lead back. Burkhardt's going to try to get it back because you saw right when that crossover happened, almost looked like Manis tried to stop the brakes or at least slow the pace up. It just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, Manis is going to try to arc this in here, I think, as we watch Beans and others battle behind. Morgan just takes the lead back, makes it look simple.
Hibbett got fifth. That was a big deal for him, though, because it let him get that fifth spot. Newell went, I believe, third to sixth.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, he's dropped to P6 now. Hibbett up one. But note that Hibbett, you know, Hibbett's only really gained a spot here or there, you know, since the opening lap if someone makes a mistake. That's just how tight things are at the front. Last time around, most of the front runners were within 0.2 of a second around a 3.7 mile track.
Pretty intense stuff, especially when you're this packed up. I just wonder what Burkhardt's strategy would be now. I would think you wouldn't want to stack things up because that would, I would think, allow Camden Hibbett to pick up the pieces of a stack up. He almost, you would think, would want to keep it a little bit strung out, make those passes maybe a touch harder in that sense, but Hibbett might have this run on Piatek now. Not quite.
Dylan Lee and Carson Neal trying to trade spots back here.
He's got the elbows out tonight. Thought he had that move done out of the hairpin. Neal ends up getting back to driver's right.
Yeah, it's always tough to make this into tower turn. And see, it just makes it awkward for everybody. Vansel Kemma, not sure which line's going to go where, but now he'll try to pick one off. All the while for the lead, here comes Manis back on the bumper of Burkhardt. 10 minutes to go.
He got the run on Burkhardt, just decided to sit on his bumper, keep those two ahead of Beans Forrester by a little bit, but you see Forrester pretty much gain all that time back before we get out of turn number 16. And you'll see pretty good run off the exit for Forrester. But Burkhardt just enough to where he might be able to cheat over driver's right, try to maintain that spot. We'll see what type of run Manis gets. He'll get a push from Forrester to add to that. Same situation.
Big run up the inside. Morgan's not going to fight this. Manis will take the lead.
Goes wide. Here comes the crossover. Forrester tried to shove it up the inside, and it maybe hurt Burkhardt a little bit. Burkhardt's still able to get drivers left of Hayden Manis, which is really where he wanted to be.
Yeah, Manis had a messy shift there. He kind of heard the engine sort of drown itself there for a moment with too much brake and throttle application happening at the same time. And that caused him to slow way up on exit. That just wasn't very efficient. That's not something you really think about, but these cars are traditional H-pattern gearboxes. You can,
look at this.
Way outside goes Piatek, and he'll gain a couple spots out there. That was impressive, but to finish off the point is, you know, you've got to be efficient in your gear shifts. You can't skip the hard parts of these cars, which is that H-pattern manual gearbox. They don't exist a lot in iRacing these days.
That was a really weird turn one. It's almost like Hayden Manis tried to stay on the racetrack, and it just really slowed himself up and just made all hell break loose. Forrester, Piatek had to go into the dirt to make that pass and pretty much lost him all his track position and let Camden Hibbett get another position.
Accelerating up and out. Under 9 minutes to go now. I would expect that this race would also be an 8-lapper, especially with Morgan bailing out of the lead for a couple of laps. Might have slowed up the pace just slightly.
Now it's Piatek's turn, try to stay on Burkhardt and try to keep pace. He has a little bit of right front damage. Not sure it's really hindering him that much. See, Burkhardt kind of slows the pace back down and brings himself back to that line.
Yeah, you don't want to let them get a sizable gap, because if they time it just right and they leave a 3 or 4 car length gap heading out of Le Mans, then they can just drive by you before you get to Sunset Bend. And that's kind of worst case scenario there, but Morgan prevented that pretty effectively last time.
See, he'll check up here, and Piatek really gained there. Still going to be a pretty decent gap where Piatek maybe can make something happen, but he had a really wide exit, and that's really going to play to Burkhardt's advantage.
Yeah, they're all still pushing pretty hard there. Forster on Piatek. 0.4 of a second. Not an insurmountable gap by any stretch.
Forster, it's kind of a tough situation because he probably assumes he's faster than Piatek and wants to make that pass, but if he makes that pass tries to attempt that pass at the wrong time, he could lose Morgan Burkhardt and he let that 67 get away, but Burkhardt definitely checked up in the final corner that time. Yeah,
we lost Hibbett off of our onboards, so we won't get to, oh, sorry, we didn't lose him. I was literally looking at him. I was focused on other things. Here comes Piatek, though, up the inside of Burkhardt. And he's got position of strength here. Next couple of corners, next major corners are all left-handers.
Where does Forster go? I can't imagine he tries 3 wide. Just got to sit in line 2x2 with the front 4, as there might be contact. It's a tough part of the racetrack with the curb right on the inside. Piatek got a little squirrely over that curb. Oh, he dove in hard. Completely missed the corner just about. Went to the side of Burkhardt, but they're going to keep it straight and stay side by side.
Yeah, but the track's going to bend here to the right, and that opens the door for Forster. They almost got tangled like they did in race 1. Forster with a big run, but they've got to get organized here. They keep battling each other, and Burkhardt is able to just outdrive them when they're all focused on everyone else but him.
Forster waited as late as he could on the brakes, waiting to brake with Morgan Burkhardt, as now Piatek tried to get drivers left, got a little squirrely in the dirt there, and that brought Manis and James Newell back into the fight to where Camden Hibbett had to battle them a little bit. But now, like you said, these two side by side for second got to sort it out and decide who's going to be the first challenger to get the Burkhardt.
Yeah, I think you just got to shuffle him back in the field here. As long as he's leading this pack, he's really just able to control which drivers he wants to be in charge of the energy, and he'll pick the weakest link. As far as where he'll place his car to manipulate the cars behind. I've never seen anything like this in iRacing, where the leader is able to make decisions that sort of doesn't look like much, but intentionally screws everyone behind him. You see it in
it affects
restrictor plate racing, yeah. but that's obvious. Here it's not so much.
It affects the entire top 6, basically, or whatever your line would be in this type of racing. He's just able to pretty much manipulate how everyone else drives to his standards, and it's really impressive. Kind of funny to see in a way. Everyone have to adapt to what Burkhardt's doing and not able to do what they want to do, really.
Yeah. And he's got, a lot of these drivers have real-world experience, whether it be Spec Miata or other club-level racing. Morgan is one of the few drivers that has IMSA Silver Class experience in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series, driving a Porsche Cayman GT4. So he knows a lot of the tricks that those drivers will employ. Whether the cars have ABS and TC, they'll be okay, but you can use all your extra bandwidth to manipulate everyone else's day and make yours better. So this should be 2 laps to go this time, and it will be indeed.
He didn't back off as much in the final corner in 17 that time, so Piatek won't be able to get the drivers left. Not sure if Burkhardt really wants to deal with that again. It's going to be a battle for third. Here comes Camden Hibbett. All of a sudden, late looked to the inside of Beans Forster. Couldn't tell if he was looking or trying to maybe shut off Hayden Manis a little bit.
Yeah, Camden's really could use a big run here. And he's going to have to get aggressive with it if he wants it, I think. But not going to be able to do it there.
Oh, look out. There's going to be more contact.
Oh! They're going to go skittering across the surface there. That should be a slowdown for Manis, maybe for Hibbett as well. And here comes Newell into the mix.
Hayden Manis just tried to pinch Camden Hibbett to the curbing a little bit too hard, and they got hooked. Fortunate for Hibbett, that wasn't the second time he got hooked, and it looks like he got a slowdown out of that, so it's really going to hurt him, and pretty much going to take those 3 probably out of contention. They're side by side with a lead with Piatek to the inside, so maybe don't speak too soon, but they lost a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't think they're out of it just yet, but all of it depends on when Piatek and Forster are able to bring the fight back to Morgan. If they keep doing what they just did, where they're kind of launching little micro attacks at Burkhardt, absolutely, I think they've got enough time to get back in it. But not doing this. You can't be side by side back here. You got to get in line, and it's going to be tough to kind of rally the troops here. Carson Neal, Vansel Kemma, Dylan Lee, they're going to be trying to move their way up into the top 5.
Whoa. There's a contact there. Newell kind of lifted in that part of the racetrack, and it put Camden Hibbett right into the back of him. I'm not sure what that was about, but now Hibbett's got a little front end damage to work with as well.
Not exactly sure what that was either, to be honest, but it takes him further out of the picture. So moving back forward, it's just 3 drivers left up here: Burkhardt, Piatek, and Forster.
Can't tell. Maybe it was a missed shift. I guess
Yeah,
it would
could
be
be.
too surprising. But it really, like you said, it checked them up a lot more to the point where they're almost out of those top threes draft range. But we know Burkhardt can back him up if he wants him to.
Yeah, Burkhardt was,
that would bring 6 extra drivers back into it.
yeah, Burkhardt was a little wide there in 16, though. He sort of took that to what the upper limit of acceptable is, I think, before you start to lose ground relative to everyone else taking a shallower line. But didn't lose enough ground on the straights, and Piatek's going to send it down there into 17. Not going to wait any longer for that. He's going to try to drive up alongside Burkhardt. Burkhardt throttles up a little sooner. White flag.
White flag's out, might give Forster a run at second. He's going to get the drivers left to the inside of turn number 1. Now Burkhardt, that's what he wants to see. He wants to be able to control both of them. I think Forster knows that, so he's going to get back in line.
That was really savvy there by Forster to recognize that what they were going to do was not going to be a winning strategy there. So he'll tuck back in line. All the while, Manis and Newell fight for 5th. Give it to Manis for now.
Carson Neal's going to try to get a few positions out of that scrap as Manis really overcooked the entry of the corner. It almost took out Camden Hibbett, so Hibbett's pretty much going to be on his own with no help and just trying to hold on the 4th at this point, or hope those top 3 come together at some point.
Yeah, this is one of those nights where it can be really frustrating because you know the field isn't enormous. You just want everyone to work together, but you know, people aren't necessarily going to be willing to do that all the time, and that's what makes this pack racing stuff so stressful, is you're just going, why don't you just work with me? But they'll say, you know, we signed up for a race. We're trying to earn positions, and how you do it is passing.
It's a motor race. We go car racing.
There you go.
I think someone once said at the end of a certain race, but that's what it's about. I mean, it's like you said, it's like super speedway racing. I mean, you're hoping that driver works with you. They have no obligation to work with you in most cases. They're trying to win the race, not trying to help someone else win the race. So you're very rarely going to have help, even when you are technically teammates.
Yeah.
That's something that comes into play at every one of these types of races, where it's kind of about that co-opetition in certain cases, but at the same time, you're really out for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, here's Piatek taking a swing at things here. Could have sworn he was just turning to the left there, and the car was going to the right. I don't know how neutral that car must be.
It's not a bad range to be at. If you can stay this close out of 16 to Morgan Burkhardt, it can be in a good spot. Burkhardt kind of backed up there, so it's not as big of a gap to Piatek.
I was just figuring out his camera's reversed. That's why we're seeing that. Anyway, out of turn 16, Piatek's got Burkhardt in the crosshairs here. And it's a slight gain, a couple thousandths every 100 feet or so. It's going to have to be a pretty big lunge to get the job done here. Morgan's in command.
I don't know if it's a damage or what, but he just doesn't have quite enough of a run. Burkhardt, now he's going to protect. He's not going to have that lunge happen, so it's going to have to be a move driver's left. There's contact right there, but Burkhardt's going to be able to bounce off him, and we'll see if Piatek can get that run. Not quite.
Well, here comes Beans with a big run. Can he push Piatek to the checkers? Not enough. Burkhardt's going to sweep both. We'll go back and look at that turn 17 situation there, but Burkhardt, Piatek, Forster, your top 3. Then Hibbett, Manis, Neal, Vansel Kemma. And let's see what happened there in that last corner. Ooh, he pushed out wide, didn't he?
It looked like he did a little bit there, and I thought Piatek might be able to get the run, but just not quite. He goes protective here. Piatek lunges late. And yeah, Burkhardt definitely, I think, comes wide and comes out to meet Piatek's car.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue that, was there contact right here? There might have been. Right there. Well, that's where the contact was, but that was. So I guess the question was, is Piatek entitled to that space to the outside? He kind of sent it in there pretty deep.
It is a motor race.
It is a motor race, so regardless.
And there's no doubt, to me, there's no doubt Burkhardt probably checked up the corner a little bit. So it's definitely Piatek firing it in there hard, but I think it's a combo of that and Burkhardt kind of checking up the corner to kind of defend from the crossover. So they kind of just cross paths there.
Yeah, well, race is over, night is over. Morgan Burkhardt sweeps another week. Hibbett doesn't even land on the podium in this one. That'll be a tough round for the points. Piatek second, Forster third, Camden Hibbett in fourth, and Hayden Manis fifth. Carson Neal, Vansel Kemma, Newell, Lee, and Friedhoff for the rest of your top 10. The rest of our slightly meager field this week with the holiday week and travel. Deacon Greenfield in 11th. Himmelsbach, Arif Aziz, and Dave Brown rounding out the rest of your order. Connor, that was pretty exciting, I have to say. But again, just when you have a field that's a little bit on the lighter side, we saw a lot of fighting from 2nd to 5th, and they just all need to, if they really want to beat Morgan Burkhardt, they just all have to agree, and we saw it happen once, to just gang up on him, and that's how you beat them.
You just got to be okay with having a 33% chance to win or whatever it would end up being. I mean, we saw it race 1. We thought those two had them, and they just let it slip away. They weren't really working with each other. They were still working against each other, and it just so happened that they shuffled Morgan Burkhardt out and let Burkhardt get back race 1. And race 2 was pretty dominant. You know, he kind of experimented. Maybe he was just having fun giving the lead to Hayden Manis, because he was able to get it back and really didn't waver after that. He was able to control the race just like he did at Barber 2 weeks ago. It's no one who's doing what he's doing in this series right now. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, multi-time champion, no surprises there. We'll see if we can chat with a couple of the drivers before we turn them loose here tonight with the podium finishers. And again, what a fun evening with Morgan Burkhardt sweeping the 2 rounds. Let's talk briefly about the upcoming rounds that we're expecting. We head to Chicago Street Circuit next week, the streets of Chicago, and then we head to Mount Panorama. Connor, of those two, which one do you think is the bigger challenge?
That's really tough because they're really 2 different tracks, but I think as far as the SMX racing usually goes, it's hard to determine which one's the tougher challenge. I think it might be Chicago, just because that you have nowhere to run, have nowhere to hide. And Mount Panorama in the mountain section, that's really the case there. But at least, you know, down the mountain, you have places where you could go wide and you can kind of afford to have a mistake here and there. You have none of that at Chicago. You have a bunch of 90-degree corners, a lot of heavy braking zones, and really no grip whatsoever. It's not newly paved or anything like that. You really do not have the grip at Chicago that you need in any race car, especially the SMX Series. So I expect a lot of chaos because those walls close in a hurry in that track.
Let's chat with Hayden Manis, 2nd in race 1 and 5th in race number 2. Hayden, tonight a podium in race 1. Pretty hectic racing, small field. I think it made everyone hyper aggressive. Take me through your night tonight and battling up there with Morgan, Olivier, and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, tonight was really kind of a learning experience for me. You know, I haven't been right up at the front, at least on the front row, for a majority of the race in a while. So just kind of learning where to go from there. But race 1 was great. I didn't have the qualifying I wanted, but I was able to make some moves, stay clean, keep that nose damage off of me, and I just wanted to apologize for my livery. I've had this brick livery that is just god awful on here, and I know you guys have had to look at it the last few weeks, so I apologize for that.
Well, I've seen worse, I'll be honest. Connor, you got a thought on that?
I'll be honest, at Barber, I almost thought it was a French toast stick, so you're fine.
Yeah,
just hungry. Mozzarella stick, it could be anything.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, especially since you can't even tell that it's a brick.
Plausible deniability.
Kind of just an inside joke.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hayden, thanks for your time. Appreciate it as always. 2nd in race 1, 5th in race 2. We'll see you at Chicago next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, let's chat with Beans Forster now. Beans comes home in 3rd in both races. Beans, tonight was a pretty good night for you. Man, Morgan's so good, isn't he? But take me through what could you have done different there in those closing moments? It always seems to come down to that tricky sunset bend.
There was one point where I got front bumper damage from a stack up in turn 7. Oliver tried to go send it down on the inside of Morgan, and he was slow on the inside, and I got a run on the out, but I didn't want to cut the track and potentially get a slowdown, so I had to kind of like reel it in and squeeze it back. So I saw that Oliver was straight and decided to push him, and that killed my front bumper. So the draft was not as effective on me. So if I was able to keep that front bumper from getting damaged, then I think I would have had a better shot at getting at least a second, maybe the win. But overall, it was tight, it was clean, and it was fun.
Yeah, super fun to watch. We head to the streets of Chicago next week and then Mount Panorama. So everything we thought we knew, we can toss out the window, I'm sure, next week, yeah?
Yeah, well, next week, so the streets of Chicago came in from one of the fun races we did in the off season, and everybody asked for it. So we're like, okay, we'll throw it in there. And then with Bathurst, I don't even know if I own Bathurst, so I gotta get stepping on that.
All right, well, good luck to you, Beans. Thanks for your time. Fun to watch as always. We'll see you there.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you. And Olivier Piatek brings it home in second place in race number 2, 6th in race 1. It just seemed like it was so hard to make up ground once you lost to Olivier, but race 2 went a little better. Take us through it.
Yeah, I mean, race 1, I got hit with not 1 but 2 slowdowns. So, I mean, I just kind of jumped in this race, no practice. I didn't know where the track limits were to a T. And just kind of when you're in a big group of cars, it's hard to see the track. And I got not 1 but 2 of the same slowdowns. So, dropped to deep in the pack. And it's at Sebring, especially when you're kind of in the middle of the pack where it checks up, you can't really get a run. Race 2 went a lot better. I was being a lot more assertive with my moves. And I got up to, I think, 3rd early in the race. Just kind of sat there, got up to 2nd. And then just with Morgan, I had some front end damage, and it was just really difficult to make a move on him. With he's defending really well, and I just couldn't get a move on him.
Yeah, well, regardless, it was fun to watch. We head to the streets of Chicago next week. Beans was just telling us that was a fun race that you guys did in the offseason, everyone liked. But Mount Panorama, of those two, which one do you think is the bigger challenge?
I would say Bathurst, just because it's going to be a big pack. I think Chicago's going to spread out just because there's not that much drafting and it's a lot of checkout points. I think Bathurst will stay as one really big pack, and when you have so many cars in front and behind, you're going to be pushing harder, and it's going to make the walls a lot easier to hit. So I think Bathurst will be a very challenging race and a very good one to watch as well.
Cool. Excited to see you there, Olivier. Thanks so much. Congrats on the podium in race 2. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks. And race winner twice in a row, again, Morgan Burkhardt brings it home, Morgan. Just like last week, sweeping again. This time, a little bit more scrappy right at the end there. It was pretty fun to watch. Race 1, kind of dove it up the inside and it stuck. And race 2, something a little different. A little contact there in the last corner, but you bring it home. And not a great night for Camden. So championship situation looking pretty good now, yeah?
28 points. 28 points. That's as close as it's been in a very long time. So I do feel bad for Camden. He didn't really do anything wrong tonight, and just got really caught out. So that really sucks. It does, because I know he's trying really, really hard. But 28 points for the last 2 rounds. I'm really excited, and tonight was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I knew this track it races a whole lot different than the event that we had last week. It's always going to be a run down to 17, and the entire first race I spent trying to figure out how far in front do I need to be, where do I need to go, how can I make these moves stick. And I did not plan to be 3rd going onto the back straight for the final lap. I wanted to be in the lead. Because I found out about if you could get 3 tenths in front, you wouldn't really be in contention by the time you get to sunset. So did not plan to go back to 3rd, but right now I'm in a kind of like it's a must-win situation for every round for the rest of the season. So it's all or nothing, put it all on the table, see what happens.
Well, Morgan, you did a nice job tonight. 2 wins, and impressive to watch as always with the racecraft you possess, Morgan. Thanks so much. We'll see you at the streets of Chicago next week.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Thanks. All right, kind of wrapping things up here quickly. Thoughts on Sebring? Lighter field tonight, but the lighter field doesn't mean it was lighter action. It was fun.
If anything, it means more action. I mean, it was incredibly fun to watch at the front. We saw Morgan Burkhardt's masterclass yet again. And I like that mentality from him. Whether it's true or not, every race a must win, and it's all in or nothing. I mean, I love that. You have to have that mentality when you're in a title situation where you're coming from behind, and even when you get ahead, you still have to have that mentality that you're behind. I love that from him. He's the guy to beat, no doubt, regardless of how tough these last 2 tracks are. He's the guy to beat right now. And a very fun race and very methodical. Tough race for Hibbett, but I did like him recovering for 4th in the final race. I thought that was really important.
Well, that'll do it for our week tonight here at Sebring. Streets of Chicago, and the penultimate round of the season for the SMX Series is next week. We will see you there. Thanks so much, Kyle Heyer and Connor Horn, bringing you the action. We'll see you next Tuesday.